familiar for me also. Okay. Just as a background, I am a social cultural anthropologist who has spent my career working in a school of medicine, in clinical settings, and in departments of public health. So I have a social science background, but have spent most of my time working with in multidisciplinary teams with medical doctors, nurses, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, community agencies, and sociologists. So this presentation is looking at presenting how to publish, and it's based on steps that I've taken more practical guidelines for providing information about where to look for information, journal articles, and so the aims of today's presentation is to provide an overview of publishing process in public health, medical, social science journals, and again, offering the practical steps in terms of preparation, submission, revision, and publication, the final step, which is the best step. I'll start a little bit with the social sciences in terms of looking for the right journal. And it can't be stressed enough that when you're searching for journals, you should really read the journal that you're considering submitting your publication to. That can't be stressed enough. And this was covered earlier, where the Web of Science provides access to Science Citation Index, expanded Social Sciences Citation Index, and the Arts and Humanities Citation Index. So it's a very good resource for the social sciences. In terms of public health and medical, and this can also include the social sciences, the U.S. National Library of Medicine is the world's largest medical library. It provides access to, I think it's 27 million citations within biomedical literature, life sciences. It gives access to some online books. The main database within the National Library of Medicine is PubMed. And if you go to the link, it'll open up a world of journals and articles and data that is really helpful in terms of picking a journal for your research. PubMed Central is a U.S. National Institute of Health digital archive. One of the things that the U.S. government has done, if a research project is funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars through National Institutes of Health or one of the organizations, such as National Institute of Drug Abuse or National Institute of Mental Health, if you publish results based on a project, that article is indexed in PubMed Central, and you are provided with free access to those publications. It's a way of sharing the research. PubMed Health specializes in presenting data on clinical effectiveness research, and also provides guidelines, and I know it was mentioned earlier, about systematic reviews. Systematic reviews, meta-analyses are great places to start for your background, for your introductions and your backgrounds. It also, PubMed Health provides some access to help everyone understand the research process. It's demystifying the research process. So there are some online books available through PubMed Health, which you should make use of. Continuing with the journal search, the National Library of Medicine catalog is also a place. You can type in your topic area, you can see which journals others have published in, and it's a way to be able to have access to look at which journals are available for you to publish in. One of the hints that I gave that I give to the students and to other colleagues that I work with is as you're going through these databases, as you read different articles, as you see where your research fits, keep a running tab of journals that will fit your research area. So again, it's a simple Excel table, but you put in the journal, the impact factor score, the submission information. You can see Springer, you can see Informa Healthcare, Elsevier. So this is a handy place to be able to, as you're thinking of where to publish, go into your own list of journals and then access the author guidelines. So it's a place to have, it's just a hint to keep a lot of this information available to you. And as you come across new journals, just add them. And you can break them down by topic area. Again, as an anthropologist, I have anthropology journals, public health journals that may be helpful, medical, biomedical journals that we can provide publications to. Another hint that I found very helpful is to develop a manuscript concept sheet. And this is really helpful, especially in public health and medical research, because it's often conducted in groups and teams, and it reflects multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary teams. So it's a good way to kind of answer a lot of questions before you start writing, in terms of multiple authors are included on the manuscript. So this is a place where we can choose main author, who is the main author responsible for pulling the article together. It helps to select an appropriate journal. It helps guide the writing process. You can create a timeline for preparation, and it's a way to also keep track within these teams, especially research teams, authors' interests and expertise. So just a general breakdown of what a concept sheet can include would be today's date, the contact person for the publication team. This can be the senior investigator. This can be a doctoral student, a postdoctoral student. Again, whoever is the main contact person for the team, who is part of the publication team and their contact information, who contributed to the project. This is when we're determining authorship. Many of the journals will now include a piece where you need to include what did each author contribute to the publication. Were they involved in the concept? Were they involved in the writing process, the data analysis, the writing of the manuscript, the review of the manuscript? Are they the senior investigator? Are they the in-country investigator if it's international work? Again, a working title. This can change, but at least you start to know what this publication will be about. Research questions, objectives, hypotheses. Again, target journal or target journals if there's more than one that you're considering, and then you can, as a team, meet and discuss which journals are appropriate. Which data sources are to be used? Is it primary data that you've collected as part of your research? Is it secondary data? Qualitative, quantitative data, mixed methods, a combination of both? Do you have access and permission to use the data, especially if it's secondary data sources, if it's a database that may be available for public use? Describe the analytic plan, the potential significance of the manuscript, and importantly, a timetable for preparation. And this is a concept sheet you can also use for publication, but you can also use it for conference presentation. So it's a very helpful tool. I'm going to work off of an example of a recent publication that the team I was working with, we submitted to the Journal of Substance Abuse Treatment. So again, there's the link to the author guidelines. But again, when you go into the author guidelines, the journal itself will tell you what types of articles they're looking for. And it's a nice guideline because it helps you. You can look at, again, this is focused on assessment and treatment of substance use, addictive disorders, including alcohol, illicit and prescription drugs. They're looking for high quality empirical research. It can include health services research, including the design, organization, delivery mechanisms, and workforce characteristics of treatments. So again, the author guidelines are very important to become familiar with because it helps you determine whether your article, the way you're going to put your article together or manuscript together fits the journal. So for JSAT, the types of articles accepted are regular articles, which is, again, they give you the specifics, 16 to 25 double-spaced pages, not including the abstract or references or tables or figures. The thing to also remember is journals may accept brief articles, shorter articles. They can include systematic reviews, which we've discussed earlier, meta-analyses of research findings. And some things that we tend to forget is sometimes you might be able to provide an invited commentary on a specific topic. You could also be either asked or you can propose to the editor to put in a letter to the editor. So these are all publications and other areas to think about when submitting or when thinking about manuscripts, and also reports. So again, each journal has what types of article, and you'll also see it when you're looking at the journal. You'll see what types of sections they have and what can be included. Before you begin, and again, these are sections within the guidelines for authors, the understanding of ethics in publishing, in terms of what you're presenting. Is it original research? Is it, there's ethical principles that you should be keeping in mind when writing your manuscript. Submission, declaration, and verification. Oftentimes your manuscript can only be submitted to one journal at a time, and you'll actually be signing a declaration that this manuscript is not being considered for publication in another journal, because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and if the editors think that you're sending out the same manuscript to 2 or 3 different journals, you can't be published, the same article can't be published in 2 or 3 different journals. So it's something that you need to know up front and commit that at this time, this is the only journal you submitted to. And then authorship, we talked about it, but it's really important because it's not easy to add or take off authors. You have to provide justification after your submission why someone should be added or not added to the publication. The article structure we've gone through many times in each of the presentations. Within public health and also medical research, when it comes to the formatting of the article, the Strobe checklists may be very helpful for those of you in, again, public health or clinical work. It provides guidelines, and I'll go quickly through, there's another 2 slides that shows the Strobe checklist. But if you check their site, it will give you, actually what it will give you is the checklist of items that should be included in reports of observational studies. So again, they talk about the title and abstract and the recommendation of what it should include. The introduction, which includes again, the rationale, the objectives, the methods. So again, we've got introduction, we've got methods. Again, it's very helpful. This way, as you're going through and writing, you can, so this is 1 page of it, and then results. A little further down is discussion, and then other information, which could include funding. because again, oftentimes medical research, clinical research has different sources of funding, which needs to be both acknowledged and any conflicts of interest presented. Because if you receive money, for an example, from a pharmaceutical company to conduct a clinical trial, that needs to be transparent, presented and understood that, you know, again, that you may have a certain bias. So everything needs to be acknowledged and presented. Acknowledgements can also include those who provided maybe research assistance but didn't qualify based on their work put into the article to be included as an author. When it comes, so once you've developed, you've organized your research, you've conducted your research, you've developed your concept sheet, you've written your manuscript, comes to the manuscript submission. Nowadays, most of the submissions are done electronically. And again, that's all part of in the author guidelines. We've run into where you may be asked the names of 2 or 3 potential reviewers, peer reviewers. And so it's helpful to think about your peers who could review the articles. And I think this is also helpful for the journals because it develops their database of peer reviewers. Because it's a, as was mentioned earlier, it's a beneficial process, it's a long process, and the more people and professionals and colleagues they have reviewing, the better it is for everyone around. So here, usually once you submit, you follow the format, you get the email that says, thank you, and each of your co-authors will receive the same email. Again, we've talked about this today, initial review by editor to determine if manuscript is good fit for the journal. It may be rejected outright by the editor if it doesn't look like it's a good fit. Some of the journals may also recommend, for an example, The Lancet, they may recommend and send the manuscript to one of its partner journals. So if you submit it to The Lancet Psychiatry and it didn't seem the right fit, they may recommend and say, what we're going to do, if you're not against it, we want to submit it to The Lancet Public Health. You know, because they see merit in the submission, but it doesn't fit their journal. You get the, I said expect a peer review decision in 6 to 8 weeks. That's in a good case. Oftentimes it may take a little bit longer because they have to find the peer reviewers and submit and wait for the reviewers to return. And again, we went through the results, revise and resubmit minor, revise and resubmit major edits, and reject. So here this was, again, the example. 2 experts in the field reviewed the manuscript. Based on their recommendation, we are asking you to consider revising the paper and then resubmit. Again, they give you a timeline within the next 30 days, and then include a cover letter detailing how your revision has addressed each reviewer's specific concerns. It's very important the way the cover letter is presented. So we talked about it earlier also about you may get, you know, the best case is you get very positive reviews and you feel good, but you can get negative reviews. You have to realize that that is very helpful in developing your manuscript. And the resubmission cover letter, be respectful, you know, put in your responses, be thankful for the comments, you know, thanking the editor and the reviewers for the opportunity. This is just 2 pages of a response to several sections. Oftentimes you take each reviewer's comments, you put it either in bold or in underline, and then you write your comment below it. And again, thank you for the suggestion, which was carefully considered. You can also, you may or may not agree with the reviewer, but you have to put in why or why not. You know, while we are not including a table of key themes, we have provided an additional sentence. There's a lot of very detailed work, and I know this has been brought up also, between reading the guidelines, between submitting, resubmitting. It's a lot of a lot of detailed work. So sometimes that adds to the length, how long it takes to go through this process. After the revision, if you get the positive response, the acceptance, you receive proofs, all authors should review the proofs. The main thing to consider, if you've got a team of 22 authors, each author needs to provide their approval that, yes, I agree with this final submission. So the main author, the person in charge of coordinating it, has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of communication. So again, if you're a co-author or a main, make sure that you're in touch and providing quick feedback, because oftentimes the timing problem results in people not getting back to you, your co-authors not getting back to you. All authors should review the proofs, and you should proofread carefully. That includes every word, that includes every table, that includes every diagram to make sure that it transferred properly. And I said the final feeling is when the publication is accepted and it's now in online format, and you also receive access to share the article. Some final thoughts and hints. Keep an eye out for calls for papers, special issues. Conference proceedings was a good suggestion earlier. You can contact the editor. Is there an interest in your topic? The thing that sometimes we forget to do, and I remember both as the graduate student and as a young faculty person, you forget that editors are people too. And you can contact them and you can talk to them, and I somehow, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Make sure you can be working on your background in literature review way before you even are putting in your publication. Where does your research fit? It's very helpful to always be thinking, doing data searches, going to the different databases and keeping up with what's happening in your field. A suggestion to create peer review groups within your university or within your community agency if you do research. Help each other with manuscript writing. You can be the peer reviewer for one of your colleagues. And the main thing to remember, the courtesy to review manuscripts if invited, because you've asked someone else to review your manuscript, so you should put in that time. And again, it's time consuming, but you learn quite a bit, and it's very helpful in terms of your professional development. Form collaborative teams with international colleagues. I think that's really important. Whether people come here through the Fulbright program or a different exchange program, try to develop partnerships and work together to submit publications, because they can help, especially if they're coming from the U.S. They can help with the conceptualization, the English language, reading through the manuscript. And on the final note, publication writing, so writing manuscripts, preparing for manuscripts, all the sections that we provided is very helpful in proposal writing. This because to write a good proposal for funding or for an exchange program, oftentimes it's very helpful and logical to follow the same model in terms of the background, why you should be doing this research, what methods you're planning to use, what your possible results may be, why you should be doing the justification for your research. So again, it helps both ways, both with the final product, but getting to the final product. So